Good morning. My name is Walter Perkins, Director of Editorial Services for Books, Inc. Literary Services. I'm here this morning to interview author Karen Ford. We're at the site of the 9th Annual Books, Inc. Authors Showcase being brought to you from the Carter G. Woodson Library. Good morning, Ms. Ford. How are you today?
I'm just fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Tell us a little bit about your first book, which I think was a collaboration, and then you're going to go into your next book, which you wrote by yourself.
Okay. My first book was a collaboration called Get That Cutie in Commercials, and it was written quite some time ago, more than 10 years ago. It was about getting your child into show business to do commercials and that kind of thing, because my son at that time was a small child and was approached a lot of the time about doing modeling and stuff, because he's a really cute kid. And so it was a collaboration.
That's his mother
about
talking,
that.
right?
That's his mother talking. But also industry professionals as well. He ended up working with 3 different agencies. He did some print work. He did a lot of print work. And then when he turned about 5 or 6, he said he didn't want to do it anymore. So that ended that. Short-lived show business show business life.
What are, and you can talk about your current book, since it's the one that you wrote by yourself. What are 3 things that you've learned about the publishing process since publishing your first book?
I've learned that the publishing industry is really, really difficult. Writing the book was a lot easier than working with the publisher. And I've also learned, of course, that when you're a first-time author, as I am a first-time solo author, and you don't have a name, you end up doing most of the marketing and everything else that you kind of assume that somebody else would do, that the publishing company would do. And you also realize that, and again, this has to do with marketing, that you spend a lot more time marketing than you actually spend writing. You know, this book was published in the summer of last year, so it's been more than a year. And I have spent the better part of this year just trying to get the word out, trying to get my name out. So I've spent more time doing that than I actually have writing the next book.
And just, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you to tell us a little bit about your current book.
Okay, well, Thoughts of a Fried Chicken Watermelon Woman is actually from my blog, which is called Caviar and Grits. Obviously, I have a thing for food. And I started a blog several years ago, and it was a way to get thoughts out, to get people to think, but more importantly, to get to add another voice to the landscape. The reason why it has that title is a dear friend of mine who's passed on was in a grocery store, and this gentleman walked up to her and said she reminded him of fried chicken and watermelon. She came to work and she told us about that, and we thought it was a hoot. So we started calling ourselves Fried Chicken Watermelon Women. So when I started writing this, I thought that would be a great title. But what it really refers to is the fact that in this landscape, when people talk, when they ask about the Black community, they go to people like Tavis Smiley or Cornel West or whatever. And so those thoughts of those of us who actually live in the community get short shrift. Not to disparage Cornel West or Tavis or any of those other people, but they don't live in the hood. They don't live in the neighborhood. So to ask them about how I feel about a particular issue, I just found that insulting. And I also found it insulting from the perspective that I'm a Black woman, and also I'm a seasoned Black woman. And many of them are several years or decades younger than I am. So I have a totally different perspective about issues pertaining to race and gender and politics and social issues, which is why I wrote this, to give another voice about those things.
In what ways might Books, Inc. Literary Services have been of assistance to you as you wrote your current book?
Well, absolutely, marketing would have been wonderful. Actually, getting book reviewers, Getting the book to various book clubs across the United States would have helped. Because like I said, I am an unknown entity. I'm a freelance journalist by trade. So I've been writing for more than 20 years, and I've written for, you know, the Chicago Trib and Lutheran Woman Today. I've worked for the state of Illinois. I've done work for the University of Illinois. So that particular part of my writing career is established, but this is not. And so that would have helped immensely.
How are networking events like today's Books Inc. Authors Showcase, how are they helpful to authors like yourself and also to new authors?
It's helpful in that we obviously we all get to meet new authors. We get to meet each other, we get to network with each other. But it also introduces us to the general public. You know, this particular library is, like I said, it's a linchpin to this community. There aren't any bookstores. You know, there are very, very few bookstores, and there are even fewer in the Black community. Books Inc. obviously has been in the neighborhood for a long time. But African American Images is gone, Borders is gone. And so there are not that many places for readers to come and pick up a book, but there are always books at the library. So a networking event, and particularly a networking event that's attached to the library, is great for new authors.
Karen Ford, what are 3 tips that you could offer to new authors?
The first thing I would say is make sure that your writing time is sacred. You know, don't let anybody interfere with that time. People make assumptions about writing, and I know that you know this as a writer yourself. They assume that the words just come miraculously, and they don't necessarily. So that writing time has to be sacred. The second thing is know your market, know who you're writing for. This particular book that I wrote is for the general public, but it's to really spur conversation and to make people think. But if you're writing urban fiction, know that. If you're writing history, know that, know who you're writing for. And then the third thing would be, remember that the person who's going to market your book the most and the best is you.
That's very good advice. What's next for Karen Ford?
The next thing is I've got 3 or 4 books in the pipe. There is one book on Black communists in the city of Chicago that I'm currently doing research on right now, and I'm planning an accompanying video to go with that. So I've done the first video interview, and I'm reading that. There is also going to be probably a More Thoughts, so there will be a volume 2 of Thoughts. And then the third book is actually a book on Christianity and its effect in the Black community.
And where can people, how can people contact you, and where is your book available?
Well, my book is available on my website, which is KarenFordOnline.com. It's also available on Amazon, BooksAMillion.com, BarnesandNoble.com, but I prefer you buy it from me. And I can be reached at kaford23@hotmail.com.
Well, thank you, Karen Ford, and good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right.